Hey, Ajax here today, and I'm going to be bringing you a guide I've wanted to do for a while on my favorite champ, but kind of been procrastinating a little bit. But yeah, it took like about 4 weeks since my last video, so hopefully this one will be good and you guys will enjoy it. Gonna do this one on Kindred today. Currently, I'm ranked 650 or 750 or something like that on Kindred low skill top list for top 1K Kindred in the world. Also rated Diamond in solo queue right now. She's definitely my favorite champion, and I'd love to share what I know about Kindred with you guys, so you guys can be good Kindred players. Alright, so without further ado, let's get into a little bit of an introduction on who Kindred is as a champion. So, Kindred is a versatile marksman who, for the sake of this video, is a jungler. Not to discredit her in ADC or mid, but we'll only be covering jungle Kindred today, as it is what I am super experienced in. So, Kindred is a short-range HP shredding ADC that's a mix between a caster and an auto attack based champion. So what a caster is a champion that does a lot of their damage from abilities like a Lucian, and then an auto attack champion, like where all their damage comes from autos, is like a champion like Kog'Maw. So because of this, she can benefit from Warrior or Devourer, either the attack speed route or the flat damage route. Kindred specializes in early game counter jungling and skirmishing. Also, she's able to duel every jungler in the game easily at level 3. With the basic idea of what Kindred is, let's kind of jump into what her abilities do before we start talking in more depth about her. Alright, first, her passive, Mark of the Kindred. Both Lamb and Wolf mark targets to hunt. Scoring a takedown on a marked target permanently empowers Lamb's basic attacks to do 1.25% of her target's current health as bonus on hit physical damage, capped at 75 plus 10 per stack against monsters, stacking with each mark consumed. So basically, it puts a mark on an enemy camp in the jungle, or a Scuttlecrab, or Baron Nashor, or Rift Herald that you can take that permanently increases your damage. You can do the same by marking champions, and if you kill that said champion, you get extra damage on hit percent HP of the target you're attacking. This is so important to Kindred's kit because a lot of her HP shredding comes from her passive. I mean, a lot comes from her E as well, but her passive is really, really important to devour a Kindred because you're auto attacking so much. So getting these stacks is extremely important. We're going to talk about a little bit more later on the mind games you can play and different things that Kindreds can do with her passive, but more on that later. Alright, her Q, Dance of Arrows, active. Lamb dashes in a target direction and fires up to 3 homing arrows on arrival upon the 3 nearest targets, dealing physical damage to each. Lamb's current attack target at any proximity will be prioritized by one of the bolts. Additionally, casting Wolf's Frenzy or dashing while inside will reduce the cooldown to a static 2 seconds. Alright, so the way this works is when you Q in a direction, you hit 3 people around you, monsters or champions, and when it's in your W, while you're inside and Wolf's attacking things, we'll talk about that right after, it reduces it to a static 2 seconds. Normally, it's a really, really long cooldown, but this really is important to clearing your jungle early. Alright, so her W, Wolf's Frenzy, is what we were just talking about. Passive, Lamb builds a stack of Hunter's Vigor as she moves around up to 100. Once fully stacked, her next basic attack heals her for 43 to 94 based on level. Active, Wolf claims a small area as his territory for the next 8 seconds, separating from Lamb. Wolf attacks targets within the area autonomously, prioritizing Lamb's attack target. So the way this works is when you drop your W, there's a circle that amasses. When you're in that circle, whenever you use your Q, the cooldown's reduced to 2 seconds, as well as Wolf attacks things inside the circle. When you leave the circle before it was going to die, it'll die anyway. And then your Q cooldown is going to go back to normal. As well as its passive is really, really nice because since you're an ADC and you take a little bit of damage clearing your jungle early, it's really, really nice because it gives you the sustain you need to survive. Alright, so her E, Mounting Dread, active. Lamb cripples the target unit, slowing them for 70% by 1 second. If Lamb manages to attack the target twice the next 4 seconds of each other, her third attack in the next 4 seconds after instead directs Wolf to pounce on them, dealing bonus physical damage capped at 300 against monsters. So basically, you E on someone, you slow them, you attack 2 times, and then on the third one, you do a percent. It's 5. I think it's 5. It was a 5%. Yeah, 5% of their bonus HP plus the flat damage and scaling. So this is really, really important, and this is another HP shredding ability that makes Kindred so good against tanks that build HP. All right. So Lamb's or Kindred's are Lamb's Respite. Active, Lamb blesses the ground under an allied champion or herself for 4 seconds. While inside the area, all units, including champions and minions and monsters, both allied and enemy, cannot be reduced below 10% of their maximum health. Units in the area who reach the threshold cannot be healed while within the remaining duration. All units in the zone are healed immediately after the blessing ends. So this is the ability that makes Kindred absolutely busted. She's literally like, she's worse than Lulu. Just everyone on her team, she's like a Kale AoE. Like, no one can die. You drop your R and in this circle, and nothing can die within it. This is super, super good with Kindred, and it works really well with her E combo as well. We'll talk more on that later in the advanced tips at the end of the video. And this ability is why people pick Kindred right now. The ability is so, so, so strong. Alright, so for Kindred's runes, you're going to go 80 reds, since she's a physical champion. You're going to go attack speed quints, because you're an ADC. And these are like baseline things. You're going to go 3 MR blues, and then you're going to run 6 flat CDR blues. And the reason for that is cooldowns are really, really hard for Kindred in like the early game. And your abilities are extremely important to clearing the jungle efficiently. And then you're going to run 9 HP per level seals. And the reason for that is because you're a jungler, and in this season, jungles really, really benefit from scaling runes since you get so much experience if you play the game right. And this is going to help you scale better. It's also really helpful to Kindred because Kindred's a very squishy champion, and you're not always running Strength of Ages or Soda, and as well as the fact that Kindred actually doesn't get autoed that much in the jungle compared to other junglers, since she's a ranged champion that can kite camps extremely easily. Once you get to the mid game, camps maybe will auto attack you once if you're doing it right. So armor runes are really unnecessary on Kindred. So HP per level is honestly where it's at. And then we're gonna go to the masteries. Right now, I think 18012 with Fervor is really, really strong with Devourer. I think it's busted. It does a lot of damage. You stack your fervor extremely fast, and you're still not too squishy either because you're running 12 in resolve. That's my personal favorite. You can also go Soda if you want, or Strength of the Ages. You can go 12-0-18. I don't think it's personally as strong. In Dynamic 5s, it's not too bad, but if you're solo queuing, Fervor's probably better. You still can go the Strength of Ages or Soda route, but I don't think it's as strong. Fervor just does so much damage with Devour. Um, to be honest, I think that Strength of Ages might not be too bad on Warrior Kindred over Fervor. I think that's definitely a better option. But for the Devourer Kindred, which everyone's been building now, I think that Fervor's a lot better than Strength of the Ages. So let's jump into Kindred's build. So of all the junglers I've played, Kindred's so cool because you can build so much on her. She's so versatile. So the standard though is you're going to start Hunter's Talisman with refill. Machete really isn't worth the first buy anymore. Mana regen's really, really good on Kindred. Without blue buff early, she kind of misses a lot. So if you do Krugs, red, Raptors, or around on the other side, blue side or red side, and then you do like a Scuttle Crab, you're gonna be running really low on mana. So Hunter's Talisman, definitely a better option, as well as getting a refill potion. Refill's a lot better than 3 pots. You don't really need the third potion, and it's really good in some cases as well because you want to upgrade it to the full Hunter's potion over refill because you need the mana, especially if you're giving blue buff away to your mid laner. For your jungle item, personally, I like Red Smite. I go poachers on almost every jungler in the game, but Red Smite just does so much damage on Kindred. It's so hard to pass up on that extra burn damage. So if you're in Dynamic 5s, Poachers is probably still a good option. But I mean, you even see in LCS a lot of junglers going Red Smite on Kindred, even though you go Poachers on almost every jungler in LCS. So your core is going to be your Red Smite with Devour, Tier 1 boots, and rune ends. This is like the dream build. Like once you have this, you can just solo carry the game. This is where you want to be. And then after your core, everything's up to you. You have a ton of options. So for your boots, you can go Zerkers, Tabbies, Swiftness, Mercs. Those are all really, really good options. CDR boots really aren't good. Mobies really aren't good. Wouldn't really recommend those for Kindred, to be honest. And then after that, you can go Asterix, you can go a Maul Malmortius, you can get a Mallet, Lord Doms, a Mercurial Scimitar, a Molten Reminder. Those are all really, really good options. Um, if possible, you can't always build this, but my favorite build is personally the Red Smite Devourer. You get Runans, Berserker Graves, Mob Malmortius, Sterix, and Lord Dominix. You can't build it every game, but it's definitely, in my opinion, the best build path overall. If you don't really know how to build a champion and you're really not sure in which cases you should go what, this is probably going to have your best success. It's really, really good all around. Gives you really good tank stats for an ADC, and it's just does so much damage. You get tank stats and you do damage. It's the dream build. So if you want to go warrior, I haven't done nearly as much testing on this one, but personally, my favorite is if you go Warrior, Ghostblade, Swiftness, Rapid Fire, Sterix, and Maw. Now, Devour is a lot better right now. There's no question about it. But this is a build that is viable in my opinion. It can still work. Definitely want to do more testing with it, and I'm sure you guys want to as well, because Warrior Kindred's still popular. But personally, that is what I would go if I go Warrior. So let's talk about Kindred's playstyle and your thoughts in the game. So first, let me start by saying Kindred's a selfish ass champion. Loading into game, it is all about you. She isn't like a Rek'Sai where you need to focus on lane to get them ahead. You see like an Orianna or Yasuo, and you're like, Orianna's really important to our team comp. I need to go mid and make sure this Yasuo stays down. Kindred's focus is where you can get yourself a lead, which in turn gets your team ahead. But your movements on Kindred need to be focused around yourself. So now that that's out of the way, let's talk about what you need to do to be successful. So I touched earlier on her early pressure. You have to use it. Now I don't just mean go gank a lane over and over because Kindred's a very hard farming champion. But as a strong early jungler, you need to find the enemy jungler. Because you can almost always win a 1v1. You need to be in the enemy jungle whenever you can. Take his shit when he isn't looking, and when he is looking, you kill him. The enemy jungle can't fight you unless they have help, which is your job to realize if they will or will not have help. If your enemy mid lane backs and their mid laners pushing, they could probably collapse on you and kill you. So you should know that this probably isn't the right time to do it. Okay? So early, your objective on Kindred is to farm a little, kill the enemy jungler or take his shit, and then gank a few times, like maybe 2 or 3. Now every game is different, I'm just giving an average. If an enemy jungler is just ganking over and over, just take his shit and look for counter ganks because you will almost always win a skirmish. Now, once you have Devour, the game changes a lot. Gank time is going to be put to the side for a little while, and you're going to be power farming and counter jungling. So, your hope is that you can find the enemy jungler and kill him 1v1 because you're going to be very strong. Now, ganks are still good, but you will have this opportunity cost, as they call it in economics. 30-70 gank works, or I get guaranteed 300 gold in topside. Or reverse, maybe 70-30 you get a double kill bottom or top, or 30% you can get topside jungle. Now this is where your decision making comes in on jungle pathing. Where is the most efficient clear where I can end up in a place where I can either gank or counter gank or begin a counter jungle. This is also a time period where you can solo drag with refill pot. That's a super good option. It's actually encouraged, I'd say. I love doing it. So once you have sated around average of 18 minutes, 14 minutes is like really good to get sated, 18's average, 21's pretty bad. It's once you've reached this time, it's time to leave your jungle for the rest of the game. You need to sit in the enemy jungle or you need to group and fight because this is where Kindred becomes just busted. Her damage mixed with utility and a game-changing ult is so much the enemy won't be able to control you. If played right, this is where you honestly solo carry the game. You get sated plus runans and you group or you go solo kill their jungle in the enemy jungle. That needs to be warded up. You need to be buying pink wards all the time and you need to be communicating with your team where you're going because this is where you need to take off. This is where Kindred becomes Kindred. This is the champion. This is very, very important that you need to understand when your farming time is over on Devour that you need to go help your team, or you just need to go solo carry and kill the enemy jungler. So where does Kindred fit into the meta? She's like one of the strongest first pick jungles in the game. Her counter's almost non-existent, and she's the top jog of the jungle. She's like I think the highest win rate, and like she has like the highest damage besides maybe like a Graves. She's actually the reason a lot of junglers have kind of fallen out of the meta that I personally, in my opinion, and I think a lot of people disagree, but I mean, champions like Elise are just being outperformed right now. Kindred fits into almost every team comp and counters so many OP champs as well. Champions like LeBlanc and Zed and Kha'Zix, all the assassins are really coming back into the meta recently in the past 4 or 5 patches, and Kindred destroys all of them. I love seeing someone lock in a Zed with Kindred up, and I just lock in Kindred because I know the game is just is free at that point. She just fits in so many comps. She counters assassins, and she's the top jungler. So this is the part of the video a lot of people probably are waiting for. This is the time where I'm going to talk to you about some more advanced tactics and tricks that Kindreds can pull in a game that really affect whether you're a bad Kindred or a good Kindred. These are going to be like really small mechanical things that you might not notice a Kindred player doing, and then when you do it, you're going to understand how much of an impact it can put on your gameplay by just doing these really small things and these things that you're going to start understanding as you play more Kindred. So this first trick, I'll call it the Vayne hop. So on when you play champions like Vayne that have a dash, it's an auto attack reset, but a lot of people don't know that if you roll or in this case hop into a wall, that it's going to reset a lot quicker. So in this first video, you're going to see right now that I'm going to hop normally and it's going to take a certain amount of time. But then in this next clip, now you're going to see me hop against a wall all the way on the corner of the wall, and it's going to attack much faster because the animation gets canceled by hitting the wall. This trick is pretty useful because if you're in a tight situation where you need to do damage as much as possible, if you're standing close to a wall and you know that this interaction will happen with the wall with your Q, you can do this and you're going to pull off your damage slightly faster. So this next clip is actually going to be really simple, and it's something that you can do on every single champion, but I put it in this video because it is very important. So Kindred's Q and E, but we're mainly going to be focusing on E for these clips, is an auto attack reset, but the E especially is really awkward as an animation because it's like it looks kind of like the auto attack, but it's not. It shoots the crippling ability. So because it's an auto attack reset, it'll cancel a auto that you have like mid auto. So to prevent you from losing damage, the second you finish autoing, you use your E to start the cast time in the channel of the ability, and you have to make sure you time it properly because you could mess with one of your autos or you could do it slower than possible. And the point of this is because we're all about efficiency and doing things as fast as possible. And with Kindred's E, when you auto attack, you instantly need to E. That way you can do it as fast as possible because this channeling animation is actually very slow and honestly feels slightly clunky. So you need to make sure that you do it properly. So in this first clip, I'm going to show you what it's like normally, where you just auto and then take a second and then E. And then the next clip we're going to auto and then instantly E, and you're going to see that's going to be done a lot faster. Alright, so this next interaction is actually really cool and it's really helpful to killing people, and this is also why she's so good in dueling around level 6 and skirmishes with her team. So a lot of people don't know this, and when you ulti, you keep everyone stays alive in it that's above 10% HP. So the way you do this is you E them while you're in ulti and they're low, and you save the third proc of your E that does the extra percent HP damage till after your ult. And I'll see a lot of Kindred players, they'll activate this damage by auto attacking while still inside the ultimate, and they lose a lot of their burst damage that they would have had that would have easily gotten a kill. So if you smite them during your ultimate and then get the third proc of E, you're almost always going to win the fight and you're not going to die and they are. So this is really important. So you're going to see I throw down my ulti and I start autoing. I put my E on them, and on the second my ulti is done, I finish the E and do a little bit of burst damage. So this is going to be a little bit more of the more basic things that we're going to be covering in this guide, but here's all the places on the map if you didn't know that you could wall hop. I didn't include all the corners because you can hop about any corner of a wall in the game, but this overall is pretty much all the walls you can hop over. Don't think I really missed any, so if you didn't know, here's the map that I'm going to give you, and you guys can look over that if you want to. Alright, so I want to touch really quick on the mind games with your passive as Kindred. So, as we talked about earlier in the video, that we said we'd get back to later, is that you can mark enemy champions, and when you mark them and you kill them, you gain bonus HP, or percent HP per 1.25, I think it is, percent, and this stacks permanently every time you get a mark. And one way you can get a mark is by marking a champion. Well, we're just going to talk really quick and touch on the different things that you can do with this. So, when you mark someone, obviously they can see it. So, something that a lot of challengers in Korea like to do when they play Kindred is they'll mark the enemy mid laner or top laner, so the enemy jungler doesn't really know, or well, they think that they're gonna gank these lands first, and they don't really know what's about to happen to them. And then jungler at level 2 will invade them at their blue buff or red buff, depending on what side they're starting, and then will kill them. And this is an easy way to get a triple buff and get a super big lead on the enemy jungler. This is just a cheese, essentially. Another thing you can do is you can mark mid or top while in Fountain at the very beginning, and then the bot lane will be like, oh, okay, so Kindred's going to be mid or top. There's no way she's going to be bottom. And then you come bottom first, and then you gank them, and they die. And then you get free kills for your lanes. And this is kind of like a mind game. Like, well, he thought that I was going to go this way, and I went this way instead. You do have to be careful though when marking people that you're actually going to gank, because obviously they can see it, and if you're going to gank in, let's say, 30 seconds and you mark them, they're going to be like, oh wow, I'm probably going to get ganked, and they're going to play a little bit more passive. So you have to be really careful. It's best to do it as you're walking into a lane where they have to fight you and they can't escape. You're going to eventually learn that gap. I think it's like 15 seconds after you mark them is when you can actually get the mark, because if you just mark them and instantly kill them, you're not going to get the stack because there is a time limit. So you have to be really careful when marking people. You have to understand at one point you can mark them and what point you can actually get the stack when you kill them. So it sounds really really complicated, but once you get it, it's actually pretty simple. And this is all up to you and your decision making that you'll learn the more and more you play Kindred and the more and more you play jungle. This next clip is super awesome. I'm going to talk to you about how Kindred's ulti will actually prevent Baron or Dragon, even Rift Tails for that matter, from dying. Now, this doesn't work with blues, reds, or anything of the sort like that, but it works with these really, really large neutral monsters. And it's so cool. So let's say you're in a desperate situation at Dragon or Baron, and you really need it, and there's an enemy Lee Sin. Lee Sins are notorious for stealing buffs, and you're really not too good at smiting, or you're afraid that he's just going to smite even if you are good at smiting. Well, at 1,000 HP or 1,100, you drop your ulti right when they hop over the pit, or however long the game's into and how much your smite's going to do. Just before your smite, because you know they're going to come for the steal, they flash over the wall, thinking they're going to be the hero, and Kindred ult comes down and prevents the Dragon or Baron from dying, or Rift Herald. And then you kill him, and then there's no way you miss smite because no one else on the team can steal it from you because there's no other smites in the game. And this is a surefire way that you're going to get your buff and objective, and they are going to die. It's so much fun to see Elise and hop over the wall, or anyone for that matter, and then you completely bait them in. You totally get the Baron and you kill him. It's a great feeling. So in this clip, you see me drop my ultimate. I smite the dragon, but because my ultimate's down, the dragon does not die. And that is how it works. For the final part of advanced tactics, we're going to go over the pathing and interaction with monster passive stacks. This is extremely important when playing Kindred in the early game. So your first passive stack will spawn roughly 2 minutes and 30 seconds. You should be walking to your opposite buff or doing your last camp on the starting side of your jungle. I deeply recommend the second option because it allows you to go down to the Scuttle Crab on the side you started, or to go to the opposite side of your jungle and go to the stack, depending on the stack's spawn point, as this is random. If you pick to go straight to your other buff, your stack may spawn on the scuttle on the side you just left, and you'd have to turn around to go get it, which is very inefficient to your jungle pathing. However, if your first stack spawns on the side of the jungle you started, it is possible the enemy jungle and goes and steals your red if you go for it, because that would be blindly going for your stack. I like to invade the enemy jungle in the very beginning of the game and ward to see which side my enemy jungle is starting so I can avoid this. Make sure you aren't blindly going for your stacks. So, also, if your first stack spawns in enemy camp, I very highly recommend ignoring it, as the success rate of getting it is very low and the cost is very high. After this, your stack will spawn every couple minutes, randomly. Your stacks are very important to your success on Kindred, so you need to path as best you can to get them whenever they're up, but do not go blindly for a stack. Your pathing also has to be efficient. You can't just run to the opposite map to get a stack and lose your entire jungle, waste 30 seconds, and get no gold, because maybe the stack is gone and you wasted a ton of time. The best time to go for stacks is when you know you can fight the enemy jungle 1v1, or you spotted their jungler on a ward on the opposite side of the map, or wherever, and you can go invade and take it from under his nose. If you get 6 stacks before 20 minutes, your stacks will spawn on Rift Herald. After, they'll start spawning on Baron. If you don't achieve, though, the 6 stacks before 20 minutes, they will just continue to spawn in camps until you finally get it. So I'm just gonna send you off with a little bit of a bonus clip from a Dynamic Fives where I was playing Kindred. We had a Lulu, and it was just like this really cool, like I felt unkillable moment. So I'm gonna send you off with that today. I really, really appreciate you guys watching the video. I know it was long. I hope you learned something. If you liked it, awesome. You didn't like it, awesome. But if you did like it, sub button would be awesome if you could just hit that real quick. I show your support for my channel. If you like my content, let me know what I should do. Just make more guides, keep improving on the quality. Maybe I should put some commentaries. I use Plays TV, so I have a ton of videos of my old games on champions from Kindred, Gragas, anything really. I've been playing a little bit of Echo and Kha'Zix. So if you guys want to see those, make sure you let me know. I'd love to start throwing some of those in on the channel where I should just go in the direction of this. So if you guys enjoyed, just leave what you think. I really appreciate you watching my video. So I'll hope to see you next time.